Hello, everyone. Happy 11/9 to all you folks out there. Getting some really, really, really nasty weather here on Cape Cod. So I'll broadcast as long as I can, but it might get glitchy with me like it was with Tug earlier. Rachel on the 28 is here. Hello, Rachel. So nice to see you. I think you're the first person because it's actually not showing anybody in the chat at the moment. So it looks like it's just you or me, kid. Gary Carpenter's here. He's like, I'm back. I know what you said even before I looked at your line. Tracy's here. Says, hi. Zuplex is here. Says, hello, T-Pons. Hola, mi amigo. Que pasa? And, ooh, hang on a second. I'm getting one of those pop-up. Well, there we go. Oh, you have new software to update. I'm not going to. Computer, deal with what I give you, and that is, as they say, that. How we all doing? It's actually getting cold here on Cape. Almost pleasant, but it was kind of damp and dreary. It's really coming down now. And last night I was actually in the bridge. You guys know my garage. I fixed it up as like a den. I've actually done posts from there. But anyway, I was there last night having a couple of Oktoberfests, and I could actually see my breath. It was actually kind of chillsville. Give me the chills. Kevin from the entertainment headquarters is here. Hello, Kevin. Good to see you. Tracy, please give a link to know yourself, but to our good friend Kevin at the entertainment headquarters. Gary says they have a tree up at Rockefeller Center. I know, right? Dan, the breaking news man, is here. Dan, welcome to the party. Guess who? So good to see you, Dan. My man, great to see you. Getting a lot of blasts in the past today. Mr. Led was actually on Tug's chat earlier today, so hopefully he'll join us if he's still about and out. Rachel says, you were freezing for a few seconds. Yeah, the cable is really Mrs. Thresh and I are watching TV, and that was getting really glitchy. So this may be a short night, but if you say I've stopped freezing now, keep me posted. You know the routine. I'd like to go at least an hour, and of course I have trivia. Tonight's trivia, it was a request from John Doe, and it's going to be on the topic of killer cars. He actually there's a great post on YouTube. Remember we were talking about the car not too long ago? There's some really amazing, scary fun facts about that in this post. And let's see. So it looks like we're up to six. That's a reasonable number. But again, still not quite seven, you know. A lot of people don't join in until we actually hit the 7 o'clock mark. Oh, guys, do me a favor. The thumbnail. I tried to because I always do these from my laptop, and I tried to use one of my Geek Chat templates. If it was a Geek Chat icon on the thumbnail, just let me know in the comments below. Oh my gosh, look who's here. Shane's here. Sick2210 says hello there. For those of you who don't know Shane, he's an absolutely amazing film buff. He is a YouTube podcast perennial. Tracy, please give a link to Sicko2210 or Shane. And for Tug, too, please, because Tug's here too. He says, "Oh, we're starting early tonight." Oh, actually, no, as always, that storm that was hitting you is hitting me now. And my internet was a little sketchy, so I wanted to make sure I had access and ended up just going straight on. Hola. And an hola to you too, by the way. Kevin says hello to everyone. My flock is here, sister Sarah. Bubble, how you doing? She says hi, Pawns. And uh oh, and all of her emojis recommending that you like, subscribe, and share and all that. What she said, thank you very much. Sarah, be sure to give yourself a link as well, by the way. Um, I'm sure everyone here already knows you. Doug says hello, everybody. Tracy's giving links to everybody. Thank you, Tracy. And Tug says, hit the like. Yeah, like, man. And let's see, I'm still No real topic tonight. Again, if my internet gets glitchy, this may not be a long show, but the topic is scary cars. Not just movies and some other formats as well, but scary cars. And Shane says, kicked the like. Thank you very much for the like, you tyke. And it's actually it seems to be working. I have 9 likes and only 5 people in the chat. Although those numbers never really add up, if you ask me. Careful, Tracy, you don't want to give the game away. We did talk about Christine, by the way, throughout the month of October. So, it's so funny. I remember like when I was in high school loving the movie Christine. And then I'm like, oh, look, it's on. That's so nice. I'll watch it, Blast from the Past. And I'm like, this movie isn't really good. I don't know if it was the teen angst angle, or I thought she was hot, or I just liked the premise, or I was just a Stephen King fanatic like Brian Aldiss. So whatever he did, I thought was good. I mean, it's not a bad movie. It's just not particularly good. But that is, as they say, that Dan is here. He said if he was up, he'd be here. Danny Staten, so glad you could make it. And Tug says Godzilla forgot what he was supposed to say. Yes, thank you for catching that. Line! Of course, wouldn't that be a kick if the line was, in fact, line? I am the lineman for the county. And Rachel says, when I was a kid, we had a Pacer. Does that count as a scary car? Yes. Yes. Zublik says a Chevy Cavalier. My first car ever was a Chevy Cavalier, and I never actually got it on the road. It needed a lot of work, never had the money to fix it, ended up having to move, needed some money, so I sold it for quick cash. But my first car was a Chevy Cavalier to an extent. Tab is here. Troll Union Bellinger says, Happy Sunday Fun Day. Guess the iconic 1988 slasher classic by its little spelled backwards. By its title, sorry. Title spelled backwards. Uh, Child's Play. And Brogo's here says hello everyone, and hello to you too. So glad you could make it. Danny says I'm still awake for now. Thank you for making it, my brother. So good to see you again today. Tug says I'm relieved to hear that, Bob. I kind of feel the same way about Christine. Loved it as a kid. Think it's meh as an adult. Yeah, it's not bad. It's just not particularly good. And when I watch it, I'm like, why did I love this movie so much as a kid? I'm like, like I don't hate it now, but I'm just like I'm still not sure. Maybe because it was Stephen King, I thought I should like it. I told you some of Brian Aldiss's short stories. The man experimented with hallucinogenics for a while, so some of his stuff is off the mark. And I remember reading some of his stuff as a kid and say, "This must be really intelligent," so I don't get it. And it's like, no, it's just Michigots. But there you have it. Shane says Christine is a horror classic. Yes, no, it's a horror classic. I can't argue with you there. But it's just weird. I remember watching it when I was a teenager and absolutely loving it. And I watch it now and think, it's good. I just, some movies I love as much now, if not more, because I appreciate them more now. Christine, I'm like, I like it, but I'm not sure why. A lot of cliches, a lot of well, there's no exposition of any kind. Now I understand too much exposition is clunky and superfluous, but there's no explanation of any kind as to why the car is possessed. But don't get me wrong, I do like it. I do like it. Gary Carpenter says the hearse. Brogan says I absolutely love John Carpenter movies. Me too. Oh, me too. Me too. I even love Dark Star, and people love to make fun of that one. Tug says, I own every John Carpenter movie. Oh, and by the way, someone said I own a copy of Equinox today. I do? Oh yeah, it was Indy Spouts. Indy says I own a copy of Equinox. I don't know if I might. I have movies in my collection I haven't seen in years. If I do own a copy of Equinox, You know my collection better than I do. Gary says, I don't like car horror movies. It's not more my speed. Very good. Luke says, the scariest car is the Porsche Carrera GT, which killed Paul Walker. That's a very, very sad story indeed. And Teb says, guess this memorable 1964 Hitchcock thriller starring OG James Bond and Dakota, someone or other. You just jumped. Give me a second. Dakota Johnson's real life grandma by its title spelled backwards. Marnie? I'm not familiar with that one. I'm sorry. Why am I not familiar with Marnie? I feel like I should know what you're talking about. I'm sorry. I kept rereading it. I'm like, is it Marnie? Why is it not ringing a bell? Oh, it's reverse tinnitus. Brogu says, I own every John Carpenter movie as well. Tug says, the RC bomb car in the Deadpool is equally parts scary and hilarious. Very, very, very much so. Brogu says, there was a horror movie by the name of The Car. It starred James Brolin, and it was better than Christine, in my humble opinion. Yes, yes, it was, and John Doe pointed out a really cool YouTube video. Where there's some behind the scenes stuff that's even creepier. Emily Miller says, "Hey y'all, Emily, so nice to see you, my lady." Lance is here. He says, "Hey Thrash, so good to see you, Mr. Lance. Glad you could make it." Tug says, "I wouldn't argue with Indy if he says you own it. You do." My guess is like 4 years ago, I said that I owned a copy, and he recalls this, and I don't. That sounds about right. So, like I said, I'm not going to argue with him. A lot of people saying hello to Emily. Emily is feeling a bit better tonight, Eric. So a bit more social. So glad you're feeling better. Christopher's here. He says, "Good evening, Bob, sir. So good to see you." Christopher, Tug is here, and he says, "Message retracted," and a message retracted to you. And Tab says, "That's correct, Thrash. It's Marnie. I am not familiar with Marnie. I am so sorry. I'm a Hitchcock fan. In fact, I caught part of a Hitchcock marathon, the TV show, over the weekend, and they had Consider Her Ways, which is one of my new favorites. That was based on a short story by John Wyndham, which a friend pointed out to me not long ago. It's become one of my new favorites. But uh, I love the Alfred Hitchcock Hour. I love Alfred Hitchcock movies. The man was something of a mumser, but he made some good thrillers. Ziplik says the Porsche Carrera GT was driven by its owner, who happened to be a professional car driver. Yeah, that whole story was just very, very, very sad and tragic. And wasn't he doing location shots for? Oh, that movie what was it called? Z is for Zachariah. Wasn't he supposed to be the guy in Z is for Zachariah? Which is funny because they changed the movie from Z's for Zachariah to a really clunky remake of God, the Flesh, and the Devil. But we've already talked about that. But in any event, very sorry that he's gone. Tug says Marnie is pretty good, not Hitchcock's best, but far not his worst. Like I said, I'm ashamed that I'm not familiar with it. I'd probably like if someone like if I saw a trailer for it or something. I don't think I've seen it, but I might be at least familiar with it. It's very seldom does someone name a movie by someone who I'm familiar with and not at least heard of all their movies, even though I haven't seen them all. I still haven't seen Barry Lyndon. I still have not. It's actually the only Kubrick film I have not seen is Barry Lyndon. And as a European history major, I'm a little ashamed at that. But when you've seen Eyes Wide Shut and haven't seen Barry Lyndon, I have no excuse. A lot of people saying hello. Professional, yes. Shame. I'm a terrible speller too, though. Teb says, guess this memorable two-part, very special episode of Different Strokes that dealt with the P word. Man, Oh, the dis it keeps jumping, so I can't read backwards. The Bicycle the Bicycle Man. Yes, and by the way, it was a B, not a D. But it kept jumping. The Bicycle Man, yes. Which had, oh, the guy from WKRP in Cincinnati, Gordon Jump, in a rare villain role for him. Although there was a Saturday morning kids show about a talking dog that was actually, uh a ghost, I think, a ghost dog. Um, but he was the bad guy in that too. Danny says, for some reason today, I had 1 million BC mixed up with some Doug McClure movie with rubber dinosaurs. LOL. That's marginally. What was it called? The Land That Time Forgot, which is set in World War I. Was actually based on an actual serialized story, and I was wondering why you were being so mean to 1 million BC. And again, it was Harryhausen, dinosaur effects, but I more than understand. No worries. Uh, no one thought you were being a mumser. It was more the fact we couldn't figure out why you hated it so much. But and Gary says Hitchcock was a good director, but he's a weirdo. Yeah. My go-to story is he was, as you know, he was being really inappropriate with uh Tippi Hedren. And Tippi Hedren's daughter was Melanie Griffith? Yes, Melanie Griffith. Thank you. I couldn't the name eluded for a second. Suppose the story goes for her birthday, he gave her a doll, and the doll was actually in a coffin, a box shaped like a coffin. And when she says, "Why is this doll in a box like a coffin?" He goes, "Because it's your mother." And I'm like, wow. Wow. So yeah. Gary says DShe was in the land that time forgot, and the people that time forgot. No, I really did. The land that time forgot was okay, but the people that time forgot, I hated the people that time forgot. I don't know why, but for some reason that was just I didn't like. Because it wasn't very good. Yes, Bicycle Man. Um, oh, Amsec Metal. Welcome to the party, by the way. He says, Teb, that ruined Gordon Jump for a lot of people. I can see how it would. But wait, welcome to the party. We'll call it AM. It rolls off the tongue better. And I just jumped, so I'm gonna have to like scroll through really fast. Luke says, "Don't know, but it was negotiating a corner when it crashed. Wasn't going very fast." My father's brother-in-law actually died in a similar fashion many years ago. Very, very sad story. Tug says, "You're not missing out. Barry Lyndon is boring, one of Kubrick's worst. Everyone said it, but if I get through Eyes Wide Shut, I feel like I should for no other reason than it's a period piece." Frankly, I didn't like Lolita. I'm like, "You gotta see Lolita." I'm like, but I finally saw it. And let's just see. Zuplik says, "Good evening to Kenneth." And yes, now I've caught up. Emily said Bicycle Man, and yeah, Gary Carpenter said also he was with Peter Cushing in At the Earth's Core. At the Earth's Core, I liked. They're schlocky, but I love the Doug McClure movies. The story is way, way better than the actual source than the movie that was made. Yeah, such a sad episode, Emily. Very, very sad. Lisa Fields is here. Says hi, everybody. Thrash. I also studied European history, and someday we should do a show on European history. I know Tracy loves history as well, but Lisa, it is so wonderful to see you, as everyone else thinks as well. AM says the weird thing about Bicycle Man episode is that the audience is laughing during the uncomfortable scenes. Whose idea was that? I You're right, but it's like sometimes you laugh in really uncomfortable moments, When I was a kid, I know I didn't laugh during that. I should qualify. But when I was a kid, I was known for laughing at really inappropriate times, and it really pissed my father off. So I don't know if people just weren't sure how to react because you didn't expect that topic in different strokes. But it was very sad. And Teb just jumped off the page, so we're gonna have to backtrack a little. Ah, here it is. Guess this Saved by the Bell episode that dealt with caffeine pill addiction, so infamous that it spawned a million memes. Song. I must confess, I was a huge big Saved by the Bell fan. A lot of people were. Uh, Jesse's song. Jesse's song. Um, Emily Miller says, "Did they use a laugh track?" Yeah, it could have been. Was it a studio audience, or were they just kicking in the laugh track just to break the tension? Gary says he ruined Tippi Hedren's life. My understanding is it like destroyed her, like literally destroyed her career, and not because people wouldn't hire her. She just was destroyed. Hollywood wasn't a safe place for her after that, from what I understand. Danny said, but I still like the Ringo Starr spoof the best. I love Caveman. And yes, you are right, by the way. Caveman was, in fact, a spoof of 1 million BC. And Emily's right, Jesse's song. And Tug says, I know, right? AM, that always bothered me. And Kevin says, I just went downstairs to make hot chocolate. The north of England is like an iceberg right now. LOL. I was saying earlier, I've set up I call it the bridge or the Valley of Obsolescence, or the Kingdom of Spiders, or the Patronken Bunker. But it's my garage, and that's kind of like my den where I watch old movies. I've actually done some posts from there. And last night I was having a few cold ones, and I could see my breath. It was actually really cold here on Cape Cod last night. So commiserations. Emily says it's going to be us tomorrow. I really don't think the Carolinas are getting as cold as it is up here, but I will gainsay you, my lady. Oh, yeah. Kevin says it's been like that for a while. Elgin Black says it must be past midnight in England. Yeah, it's probably close to 1 o'clock, I'd say. And Rachel says Lolita book and movie is gross. I know the book is. And Kevin says, speaking of Godzilla, I am excited for Godzilla minus zero. Ooh, I hadn't heard of that. I look forward to that as well. And AM says, all those Hitchcock blondes are still alive in their 90s. Vera Mills, Tippi Hedren, Kim Novak. Good point. Christopher says, good evening to Kevin. Emily says, I hate cold weather. Anything below 60 is too cold. My father is like the same way. And Danny says, I took ancient history and language translation. Ooh, very cool stuff. I love ancient history. And you just jumped, so I'm gonna have to go back a little bit, but I am catching up. Uh, where do? I went too far back. Give me 1 second. Gary says, it's 63 here in my area. Emily says, Gary, it's warm here for now. Temps are just going to continue to drop. Shane says, I'm so excited. I'm guessing about minus zero, Saved by Zero. Gary says, I rarely watch Saved by the Bell. Ding, ling, 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 ling. And I'm just excited for what I think the Godzilla minus zero, Saved by Zero. Now maybe I will win. You see, I remember that song stuck in my head all night now. Tug says I got a indiscriminate major from the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences. In other words, I took too many classes and they wanted me to leave. You're kidding. You're kidding. I love it. I love it. Emily says it's supposed to be a high of 45 tomorrow. All right, so we're gonna about to par. Danny says they say South Carolina is hitting 33 tonight at 4 a.m. That's crazy. That's crazy. And Tracy says Godzilla is cool. Yes, he is. Yes, he is. And so's Walter White. So it's Walter White. And Gary says, I've got some wind going on. Yeah, me too. You can actually hear the. And Rachel says, damn, Saved by the Bell song. And Gary says to Tracy, me too. And Emily says, Danny, I'm ready to just hibernate until May. And Ted says, guess the iconic 70s sitcom character made famous by Henry Winkler, The Fonz. I didn't have to read that one. And Tug says, I prefer too cold to too hot, and I'm a native Floridian, go figure. Well, see, the problem with too hot is when it's cold, you can always put on more clothing. You can only take off so much. And ACs burn a lot of electricity. So, one thing though is I'm getting too old to shovel snow. Entry says it's supposed to be 65. That's tolerable. And Gary says, I haven't seen Godzilla minus zero yet. And Emily says, Eric, give me 90 plus over under 60. And keep bragging, Tracy. Danny says, I always like cold weather best until it turned 55. Now the cold is hard to, until I turn 55. Now it's hard to deal with. Yeah, 55 is tough when you're 55. I noticed that too. Cold didn't bother me at all when I was a kid. Now it's like it just goes right through you. I don't know, probably because lack of circulation. And Christopher says, good evening, Rachel. And Emily says, cold makes me angry. Doesn't everything? Sorry, couldn't resist. And Doug says, I am super stoked for Godzilla minus zero, but man, the naming conventions for the modern Godzilla movies are terrible. What's next? Godzilla minus the square of -1. Crazy. And John Doe is here. He says, yes, it's true. I'm here, or am I? Of course you're here. Thank you for joining us. And Lisa says, I like spring and fall, hate summer. And a lot of people saying hello to John. Emily says, I need a family in Southern California to sponsor me and let me live with them. Lisa Field says, Thrash, what's with the sign? Oh, it's like how, unlike like TV shows, when someone forgets the line, they go, line, and then someone holds up a card with what the line is. And I go, wouldn't it be funny if the line was line? And you remember Zooplex wanted a little stick where every week Godzilla would hold a different card, you cad. So I don't line just came to me. Cause the Wichita lineman is still on the line. Oh, by the way, speaking of line, Kevin, I just heard the story. Is this legit? This legit. There were like all these reports of a lion loose in the UK, and people were up in arms. And it turned out it was just a dog that had been strategically shaved to look like a lion. I'm guessing it was a chow because chows actually do look like lions. If you, the mane, is it? Did you hear about this? I'm sorry. Mrs. Thrash was telling me about it earlier. But crazy. And Tug says, I'm with you, Lisa. Spring and fall are the best. Fall is when I miss the Berkshires most of all because I went to school out in Western Massachusetts and it's just gorgeous there during the fall. Fall, I miss the best. But spring was like winter light. You could get snow in May up there. And Tug goes on to say, pretty sure Godzilla's next line was, "Rrrng." Very weak Godzilla translation. And Zibble says he can't remember his next line. Lisa, yeah, you got it. His line was line. And exit stage left. Love it, love it. And Emily Miller says, Zuper, there are no lines. It's all alibis. Don't give me no alibis. And John Doe goes on to say, the new Godzilla from Toho is Godzilla minus zero, saved by zero. I've got to stop doing that, which might come out November 3rd, 2026 for Godzilla Day next year. Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. And Tracy says, I prefer fall and spring. Likewise. And Lisa says, I heard that story. It was in Ireland? I heard in England, but you're probably right, Lisa. And I'm sorry if I was wrong. I correct. Like I said, I was hearing the story through Mrs. Thrash, and I hadn't had my coffee yet this morning, so I was technically still asleep. And Emily says, I usually like football season, but the Panthers suck today. And Zuplik says, or does he want you to believe that, Emily? Haha. And Tug says that was the worst Godzilla impression since 1998. Let's not say start saying I'll come in again. Let's not start saying things we can't take back. Ad libs, not alibis. I used to love to do ad libs. Mad libs, mad libs, mad libs, ad libs. Bicka bicka boo. I don't know. Anyway, but ad lib. But I sorry. When it jumps, sometimes it's tough to read, and I have to extrapolate with varying degrees of success. Gary says to geek, it was a fair movie. Shane says Charlie Sheen would ask for his next line, and everyone stood around in confusion. I believe it. I believe it. And Gary says the cartoon series was better. And John Doe says there are lines, but they're made out of MSG. Oh, ew. And Tracy, message retracted to you too. And Tug says, Ireland, England, what? I'll bring Mrs. Thrash out and ask her that. We'll see what she says. Emily's like, oh, Eric, no, you didn't. I know, Kevin. He was just kidding, by the way. And Elizabeth says Tug, right? And Tug says Mad Libs are great. I was sad that my son never enjoyed them. My granddaughter fell in love with them for a while, but I must confess, I used to cheat. I would read them at first so I could think of more comically appropriate lines in the Mad Lib, which defeats the purpose. But um, still, what's life with a little cheating? Ask Captain Kirk. Tracy says, I cannot stand Florida summers. I am still a Chicagoan at heart. And Ziplik says, Emily T-Pons needs a new prescription. I got a couple of new pair of glasses today, by the way, but I left them in the car because I'm a dum-dum head. And Doug says, don't snort at MSG. No, don't snort at it. You can snort the MSG. I wouldn't, though. I used true story. I used to sniff glue, but my nose got stuck together. I don't have to impress you people. Anyway, Emily says, Eric, why couldn't we made up our own all the time? You made your own MSG? Gary says, Tracy, then why are you in Florida? Good question. And Emily goes on to say to Zuber, me too. Yeah, well, I think we all need new prescriptions. And Tracy, I was gonna say it was to be with your husband, wasn't it? Very sweet, very sweet. Snark Sass is here, says live long and prosper. Snark Sass, live long and prosper to you too, my lady. Gary says he doesn't like the city. Tug says, how are we going to cheat at the quiz tonight without Indy? Well, that's kind of reason why I'm dragging my feet. I was hoping he'd show up. Most of them you guys will get. Most of them are things we've talked about. And again, it's going to be on killer cars of varying incarnations. Incarnations. See what I did there? Everyone's saying hi to Snarky. Tracy's retracted another message. John Joe says, not to bring it up again, but they made a sequel to the car called Road to Vengeance. But what I heard, it's kind of bad. I haven't been able to find anything on it, but thank you for the fun fact, John. And Emily says, the only reason I am still in NC is because I'm a broke. And I'm guessing you're not in the market for a sugar daddy either. So, or a sugar mama to own their each. But even then, you probably that would be awkward for you. And I'm going to stop talking now. I think I've buried myself into a corner as much as I should. And Tracy says Chicagoan, Chicagoan, Chicagoan. I like Chicago Gideon. Gideon's trumpet. As it says, Dora dashing isn't working. A lot of places are actually dropping it. A lot of places are going back to having their own delivery systems because DoorDash gets a great big wet bite out of it, so they lose all their profit anyway. And when DoorDash makes a mistake, guess what? People don't complain to DoorDash; they go back to the restaurant and complain, wanting their money back. And they go, "You didn't get it from us; you got it from DoorDash." I've worked in restaurants where you see this. The DoorDash driver drags their feet. And I'm not knocking the DoorDash drivers. I do a lot of really, really great people who work for DoorDash. I used to see them all the time. They were great people. But oftentimes, the fly by nighters, they'd make a mistake and the food would be ice cold by the time they got it. The people would say, "I want fresh food." Talk to DoorDash. So yeah, a lot of restaurants are going back to their own delivery system. Oh, now John, you don't give the game away. We have to. Do you guys want to start trivia? I'll read through the rest of these comments really quick, and then we'll start trivia. So, actually, do you guys want trivia? Yeah, yeah, yeah. We want trivia. Are you sure you want the trivia, guys? Yeah, Bob, we want the trivia. Okay, let me just scroll through really quick. Emily says, "Super, I had a wreck May 18th and can't drive my car." Oh, that's right. Oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, that's so awful. Oh, car troubles are just the worst. The worst. Sean says, Chicago Wintian. Chicago Winnett. Chicago Winnett. Uh, uh, Jamie Wynette. Tammy Wynette. Don't ask why. Why net? Why ask why? Bud Dry. I don't know. I'm free forming. As I'm sorry to hear that. My condolences. Yeah, I do remember her mentioning that now that you mention it. Very sad. And Tug says, easy for you to say, sick. And Teb says, sorry to hear that. Yes. And Shane says, I do DoorDash in my spare time, which is not much. And Emily says, you're going to get cold food when the restaurant is 6 to 10 miles away. Or, and this is the problem, that what a lot of what the DoorDash drivers were doing was they take on more jobs than they should have at any one time. That's how you make more money. So, but the problem is you can only deliver them so quickly. I guess I think if they organize it really well, you could like bam, 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 bam. But the problem is if you take on too many jobs, the last in line, that food is not going to be fresh. And I like cold food anyway, but that's just me. I'm a weirdo. But yeah, but the problem is that when people complain, they didn't complain to DoorDash; they'd complain to the restaurant, and we were out of the equation. Uh, and Gary says to Emily, "That's terrible. Did you tear it up?" And Denny says, "Damn, Buff bet DoorDash sucks in a ring, lol." And or a rig. Oh, a rig. That's right, because you drive a truck. I'm guessing he has an alternate vehicle for that. And Emily says, I try Chris. Tracy says, or sick even. And Tug says, LOL, Danny. And Shane says, burns a lot of fuel, Danny. Emily says, Gary, it could be fixed for less than a grand, but it's a grand I ain't got. And Tug says, if it weren't for cold pizza and warm beer, I would have never have eaten breakfast in college. I thought you were going in a completely different direction with that, but and Tracy said I order from Uber Eats, and Gary says, I can understand that. Did you have insurance?" And didn't have collision. My guess is the car probably wasn't worth it. And John Doe says cold pizza, hot beer, the breakfast of champions. And Chris says, I'm sorry, Emily. Hope you weren't hurt. It's a very sad. Again, Emily, very, very sorry for your loss. In any event, I am now going to read the questions and, well, and the answers, really. And as always, I'll give them in no particular order. Oh, and by the way, that's legit in this case because I forgot to number them. So they are legit in no particular order. But I shall begin with the begotten. This action comedy horror spoof features a road race of killer cars. Was it A, the Great Race, B, Rat Race, C, the Cannonball Run, or D, Death Race 2000? I shall repeat. This action comedy horror spoof features a road race of killer cars. Was it A, the Great Race, B, Rat Race, C, Cannonball Run, or D, Death Race 2000? Let me just see. John Doe says death proof. Duke of Hazard cartoon. Emily says that was a funny movie even when I was a kid. You guys seem to have knocked this one out of the park, but I'm gonna give you guys another second or two. Pardon me. Pardon me. Gary says he liked the cartoon series of Dukes of Hazard. Oh, Shane says features Sly Stallone. The correct answer is D, Death Race 2000. Moving on to what I'm guessing is 9. This Twilight Zone episode features a haunted car seeking justice for a hit and run victim. Is it A, the hitchhiker, B, you drive, C, the thing about madness, or D, the whole truth? I shall repeat. This Twilight Zone episode features a haunted car seeking justice for a hit and run victim. Is it A, the hitchhiker, B, you drive, C, the thing about madness, or D, the whole truth? Herbie strikes back. Yeah, I was gonna say, well, it was Keithy who mentioned Herbie earlier. That was classic. Kevin says we have had many stories of wild lions being loose in the UK. I think people just want to recreate that of the Baskervilles. I'll buy that. AM says you drive was an Abbott and Costello routine. I don't recall that one. I believe you, but I don't recall it. But actually, the correct answer is B. You drive. It's about a guy who accidentally hits a boy on a bike and then tries to cover it up with the car, which represents his guilty conscience, makes him confess. Number 8. Demonically possessed car flick, The Car, had to have that on this list, had a connection to this occult icon. Was it A, H.P. Lovecraft, B, Anton LaVey, C, Aleister Crowley, or D, Madeline Murray O'Hare? I shall repeat. Demonically possessed car flick, The Car, had a connection to this occult icon. Was it A, H.P. Lovecraft, B, Anton LaVey, C, Aleister Crowley, or D, Madeline Murray O'Hare? Give you guys a second to catch up. Gary Cameron says, I saw Herbie at the Charlotte Motor Speedway back in the day. Oh, very cool. Tug says Frank Zappa. The correct answer was Anton LaVey, who ironically died tragically in a car accident himself. But supposedly there was going to be this connection between Anton LaVey and the car, and there's a blurb in the beginning. But anyway, that's actually in the YouTube post that John Doe shared. Thank you again for that. But anyway, moving along to number 7. Richard Matheson based this truck based film on a personal experience. Was it A, Death Proof, B, Breaker Breaker, C, Convoy, or D, Duel? Emily says, "It's okay, Tracy. I don't know it, obviously." And LOL Zappa. And Rachel says, Herbie identified as a Tesla. John does this Silver Streak. Let me repeat again. Richard Madsen based this truck based film on a personal experience. Was it A, Death Proof, B, Breaker Breaker, C, Convoy, or D, Duel? And just so you know, I've talked about this anecdote on several occasions over the years. So if you were paying attention, you'd know it just from that. But the correct answer is D, Duel. He and a friend were coming home from an early morning golf game and were harassed by this crazed truck driver who was probably hopped up on amphetamines. And when he tried to get help from the police, they didn't care because it was the day of the Kennedy assassination and they had bigger fry fish to fish fry. Number 6, and then we'll get scores. Okay, urban legend slash campfire story features this ominous vehicle. Well, oh, it'd help if I actually said the name of it. I'll come in again. This urban legend slash campfire story, room for one more, features this ominous vehicle. Is it A, an ambulance, B, a Model T, C, a World War II Jeep, or D, a hearse? I'll come in again. This urban legend slash campfire story, room for one more, features this ominous vehicle. Is it A, an ambulance, B, a Model T, C, a World War II Jeep, or D, a hearse? I was going to say, I believe I've talked about this story on several occasions too. So it seems like most of you got it. Gary says, on the highway, the former 666, there's supposed to be a phantom truck driver. Really? I hadn't heard that. And Tug says, oh, what the heck? All the cool kids are saying D, it's D. Yes, the correct answer is D, and it's a hearse. And really quick, did I tell this on Halloween a couple years ago? Story goes, guy is spending the night at a friend's house, and he wakes up because he hears the neighbor's car pulling in. He goes to the window because he's a Gladys Kravitz, opens it up, and the car is a hearse. And this really creepy man gets out of it and says, room for one more. And he wakes up the next morning and, oh, it must have been a dream. And he tells his friend goes, the neighbor doesn't drive a hearse. What are you nuts? Anyway, years later, he is in a building going on a job interview and he's running late. He runs to the elevator, and the elevator operator is the same scary looking dude. And the guy in this really creepy voice goes, room for one more in the elevator. And he's like, yeah, you go. I'll take the stairs. And what happens is the elevator crashes and everybody that gets killed. They've been telling that story, I want to say, since the 1920s. It's one of my favorite campfire story, urban legends, whatever you want to call it. But anyway, the correct answer is a hearse. Let's get some scores. Okay. Zuplik says A, just to be that way. Emily says, I always wanted a hearse. My mom and dad had a friend who drove one with a casket in the back. Ooh. Zuplex is 2 out of 5. Dundo says, those are my favorite cars for personal reasons. Chris says 1 out of 4. I forgot the Twilight Zone question. Gary said, and my dad bought a green station wagon, and it looked like one. Tux says, a friend of mine does own a hearse. He's not a funeral director or anything. He just likes driving it around, around in it. Was it Harold and Maude where he had a hearse? Tracy's 3 of 5. Tab is 4 of 5. John Doe says, "Thanks for the lift, lady." Ah, creep show. Uh, Tug is 4 of 5. Gary is 3 of 5. Rachel is 3 of 5. Emily says Eric for Halloween he would keep mannequin in the casket. That is awesome. Emily is 3 of 5. Elisa Fields is 4 of 5, and John Doe is 5 of 5. A girl I knew in college, friend of mine, just a friend of mine, um, had a thing for how should we say this? Um, having you know, romantic moments in inappropriate places, and one of her big claims to fame was she and this male she was romantically involved with had a interlude in a hearse. Moving on, guess we're down to number 5 now. Killer Cars was an animated segment in what show? Was it the Mad Magazine TV special? B. SNL? C. Monty Python's Flying Circus? Or D. The Sonny and Cher Hour? I shall repeat. Killer Cars was a famous animated segment in what show? Was it A. The Mad Magazine TV special? B. SNL? C. Monty Python? Or D. The Sonny and Cher Hour? Gary says, T, have you ever seen the Telly Savalas story about the encounter with a ghost? Celebrity ghost stories? It's ringing a bell. I can't place it. They're on YouTube. I'll have to double check it. I'll see if I remember from before. John Doe says, I watched a lot of killer car movies. I've even seen The Car City Paris. And Doug says, he had a little death in there. And Denny says, I try to get the wrongness answer possible. And oh, they're on there. And Emily says, no clue, but following the crowd. A. That's a great guess. And there is a bit about used cars on there, but no. Killer Cars is actually done in Monty Python. It was one of the I thought it was one of the famous bits. It was one of the Terry Gilliam animations. And they're saved by this like giant hand, crawling hand. The people are saved by because the giant hand kills all the cars. You've saved our city, but at what cost? And then the hand is taken out by a giant Siamese cat that then starts to eat the buildings. And so the people decided to leave the city. But Monty Python is the correct answer. And number, I guess we're looking at 4. Okay. Haunted car comedy. My Mother the Car starred whom? Was it A, Jerry Stiller, B, Jerry Van Dyke, C, Jerry Lewis, or D, Jerry Lee Lewis? I was going to say Sam Kinison. Ah. And Emily says, Eric, don't be coming in late with the right answer. And Rachel says, I knew it was Monty Python. I doubted myself. That's okay. That's okay. But I shall repeat. Haunted car comedy. My Mother the Car starred whom? A. Jerry Stiller, B. Jerry Van Dyke, C. Jerry Lewis, or D. Jerry Lee Lewis? And yeah, you guys all got it. It's Jerry Van Dyke, who actually played Rob's cousin in at least one episode of the Dick Van Dyke Show. Okay, number 3. The Munsters family vehicle was known as what? Was it A, the Munsters coach, B, the Munster wagon, C, the Munster T, or D, the Munster mobile? I shall repeat. Jerry Mathers. Good one, AM. There's a lot of Jerrys in Hollywood, apparently. I don't know why it's such a popular name. I believe, wasn't Curly Howard Curly from the Three Stooges. I believe his real name was well Jerome, really, but Jerry. But anyway, let me repeat. The Munsters family vehicle was known as what? A, the Munster coach, B, the Munster wagon, C, the Munster T, or D, the Munster mobile. Yeah, that was a tricky one. Oh, Dracula. Love it. Love it. It's actually A, the Munster coach. I just love it. I had to throw it in there. Okay, and Stephen King, and you know Stephen King had to be on this list somewhere. Number two, Stephen King's coke fueled fever dream of a film was based on on this far superior Stephen King story. Was it A, One for the Road, B, Battleground, C, Trucks, or D, Matchbox Overdrive? Oh, and in case you're wondering what the hell I'm talking about, yes, it's Maximum Overdrive. In fact, let me repeat that. Stephen King's coke fueled fever dream of a film, Maximum Overdrive, was based on this far superior King story. Was it A, One for the Road, B, Battleground, C, Trucks, or D, Matchbox Overdrive? Really? No one's saying Matchbox Overdrive? Tracy says, I quit. No, Tracy, please. There's only one more after this. Ooh, a lot of people like One for the Road, but no one's going to pick Matchbox Overdrive. I like Matchbox Overdrive. That would make a great little animated bit where you use the matchboxes and you animate them. Do it with a Lego City. Oh, this sounds fun. I wish I had more free time. I'd do it myself. The correct answer is Trucks. Maximum Overdrive is based on Trucks, which is actually a really good short story. It's actually surprisingly creepy too, even though it's kind of silly. All the cars come to life and start killing humans because they've been oppressed so long. It's like an automobile uprising. Anyway, the number one, the number. I know I'm kind of beat too. The number one post-apocalyptic perennial Anthony James plays a creepy hearse driver in this atmospheric horror classic. Was it A, The Shuttered Room, B, Burnt Offerings, C, The Fog, or D, The Dunwich Horror? I shall repeat. Post apocalyptic perennial Anthony James plays a creepy hearse driver in this atmospheric horror film. Was it A, The Shuttered Room, B, Burnt Offerings, C, The Fog, or D, The Dunwich Horrors? Sometimes they come back. Good guess. Tracy is officially sitting this one out. Ooh, AM and a two-part answer. I'll accept both of them. Danny says, I question the statement Superior King's story. The short story Trucks is way better than Maximum Overdrive. I will die on that hill. And a couple of you said C because I had a little trick there. I said atmospheric horror, yes, but the correct answer is actually Burnt Offerings, a surprisingly creepy horror film with Oliver Reed and Karen Black and Anthony James, who I promise you've seen in other stuff, but he plays this really creepy hearse driver who has this like really scary smile, like. um, but yeah, Burnt Offerings was the name of the film. Doug says Anthony James got a lot of mileage out of how creepy he looks. Mileage. Oh, okay. We can do scores now. Gary is 7 out of 10. Tracy is 5 out of 10. Zerblix is 4 out of 10. Teb is 9 out of 10. Tug is 7 out of 10. I know there's more of you out there. Emily is a 6 of 10. I'll give it to you. Yeah, you said you think it. I'll count it. Lisa Fields is 8 out of 10. You guys did very solid this time. Um, oh, AM said the only guy to scare me, Oliver Reed. Did you ever see the Hammer's only werewolf movie? He was in that. He was really, really good in that. Rachel is some out of 10, number unknown. We'll call it better than 50%. Tracy says, Teb, I am not worthy. And this was trickier than I thought. But again, Mr. John Doe asked for car stuff, so that's what we did. Any suggestions for the next trivia game, by the way? I had a few, but I can't remember my own handwriting, so I'm gonna try it again. uh, so anyway, let's see. John Doe got 11 out of 10. I gave myself a bonus for the trivia. You know what? You do that, John. You give yourself that bonus. Gary says, T, if you want to do famous cars from regular TV and movies, I could try. I don't. I was never much of a car buff when I was a kid, but that could work. Tracy says, Eric, holy moly. Rachel says, I kept doubting myself on this game. AM says, bad TV series starring Alan Thicke. Okay, I'm gonna guess Growing Pains. Hibblick says baseball. No sports. Sports is my kryptonite. We've been through this. Um, last. Ooh. Tug says last movie roles. Emily says Zuper. If you don't stop. John Doe says how about Space 1999? Oh, hi, Mrs. Thrash. Mrs. Thrash is going by, telling me that I'm number one. I remember I did Space 1999 and UFO, and it didn't go over so great. Gary says monster movies. Okay, that's another good one. Okay, monster movie, Cars, TV, Last Rolls. Everyone's saying hi to Mrs. Thrash. Mrs. Thrash. Oh no, they want me to do a trivia contest on you. She's laughing. Zubin says, "Why the hate? It's not hate. I just don't know it. I can't do. It's not you, you lunatic. No, I know plenty about Mrs. Thrash, more than you'd like to know. No, I can't do trivia on sports because I don't know anything about sports. So it's like I don't know, and everything I do know you've already heard. AM says Gladiator Oliver Reed's last role. Yes, yes, he played the procurer of gladiators. And Tracy says, "How about Teachers, Robert? The movie Teachers? Um, I saw it probably 40 years ago, but we'll put the maybe pile. Everyone's saying hello, Mrs. Thrash. Still, anything about Godzilla? Okay, Godzilla's always good. Godzilla. Rachel says music trivia. I haven't done anything music related in ages. That would be different. That would mix it up a little bit. Tim says trivia suggestion: movies starring Cary Grant, like Bringing Up Baby. Uh, Cary Grant. Um, Disney movies. I'm gonna put it on there, but I don't know how good I would do with Disney. Tug says it has been a minute since Thrash did a music topic. I second that. Okay. Um, I'll highlight that one. Yeah, it's been a while since I've done music. I really want to do another creepy classic. I want to do one of my creepy classics. Um, in fact, I have a couple good ones. In fact, if you guys have suggestions for creepy classics, I'll take them too. By the way, because the couple that people suggested for me, I thought worked out astoundingly well. Uh, Teachers in general. I hated most of mine in school. And but now I see what you're saying, Tracy. Um, and Tug says yogurt. We're talking about yogurt again. Oh, goody! Remember that? That was like the bit we did forever. Christopher says, "Get smart trivia." Ooh, Ooh, Get Smart. I'm gonna write that one down. Get Smart. You could do a whole thing on famous guest stars on Get Smart. And Gary says movies with Lucille Ball, Bob Hope, John Wayne, Catherine Hepburn. Yes, we could do that. AM says Zuper, the one with Lauzia. Creepy classics, please. You know what I want to do for a creepy classic? White on white, lace on satin. When you actually listen to the words, it's one of two things. Either it's a girl he grew up with who friend zoned him, which a lot of people like to interpret that. But if you think of it another way, he's just this old creep who was fixated on this young girl, and now she's getting married, and it's breaking his heart. If you look at it a certain way, it's really creepy. But at least I will do a creepy classic. Come heck or high water, I will do a creepy classic. And John Doe says trivia about yogurt. Only people of culture get it. Christopher says leave it to Beaver trivia. That's a possibility. Denny says I haven't eat yogurt since the stuff came out. Doug said yogurt is only appropriate if Thresh gets backed up. Yeah, and she's listening into our conversation again. Emily says soundtracks of the 80s. I love that. Soundtracks. Love it. And Gary says guest stars on Beverly Hillbillies, Batman, Wonder Woman. Yeah, famous guest star roles would be great. Batman, I know. Do you know that so many people wanted to be guest villains on Batman? They were being approached saying, "Can I be a guest villain? Can I be a guest villain? Can I be a guest villain?" That whole shtick where they climb up the wall and someone pokes their head out and says, "Hi, Batman," like something got to laugh in. There were too many people to be incorporated as villains, so they started just having them do that sort of pop out. It's crazy. And Tug says, I like Emily's suggestion, so I'm going to highlight that one again, too. And okay, I should probably stop taking suggestions at this point because that's probably that's for the rest of the year. But John Doe says, can you eat yogurt? Just stay away from the stuff. Tab says, trivia suggestion 80s movies that are so good it's bad. So good it's bad. I'm going to write that down. That's clever. It's bad. I can do that. AM says 1995, every yogurt is regular style. 2025, every yogurt is Greek yogurt. Gary says Z and Dora. Yes, yes, she does count. AM says Zuper. That's with Oliver Reed. Also Bewitched. Emily says Bewitched. John Doe says trivia about Irwin Allen. I'm going to write that down. Irwin Allen. Oh, Emily, before I forget, have you seen Weapons? I finally saw Weapons, and I'm just wondering if you've seen it because it seems to spotlight on the craft. And I think some of the things that were suggested in it are well. Anyway, I just want to know if you've seen it and how if you liked it. And you know what? If everyone else liked the weapons too, by the way, if you've seen weapons, let me know if you liked it or not. A lot of people saying good night to Mrs. Thrash. Anything 80s related, I love it. If I missed anybody, please a comment because I was doing two things at once. Yeah, weapons. It's that recent sort of. It's a horror movie, but it was a sort of inventive horror movie. That's the one where all the kids in this one night go missing, and it's part mystery, part horror film, um, and it's done in a series of vignettes. It's actually pretty good. Never heard of it? It was just like big, um, like horror blockbuster not long ago. No worries, no worries. But it revolves around negative witchcraft. I think is what I'm groping at. Uh, Lisa says she wants to see it. Gary said I've heard of it, but I haven't seen it. Christopher said, "Good night, everyone. See you next week." Oh, good night, bro. And we'll probably be wrapping up here very, very, very soon. But I'll see you all next week. And I think Teb said good night too. So Teb, if you've checked out, have a good night as well. By the way, Gary says good night, Mrs. Calabash, wherever you are. John just says, thumbs down. Weapons of that's modern horror. Emily says she'll have to look it up. Zerblick says the failed Irwin Allen disaster flick when time ran out. That was his last film, wasn't it? And it was supposed to be like what was that movie? Or those movies like like Earthquake and stuff like that, where it had like a huge cast of everything. But yeah, I didn't care for that one. Tracy says Nighters guys. And you know what? I think we should call. By the way, my voice is starting to crack. I'm sure you've already noticed this. A lot of you getting tired. We've done the trivia. Uh his last disaster flick, certainly. Gary Kempner says Erlen Allen had the Lost World. Yes, he certainly did. A lot of people say goodnight to one another. And yes, guys, I want to thank you all so much for being here tonight. Had an absolute blast. To you new guys that were here for the first time, it was so great to see you again. Welcome back. To all you folks who be watching in replay, like so many of you do, too many to list. But hey, I'm sorry you guys weren't here tonight, but looking forward to seeing you either in the comments in replay or next week. But anyway, guys, like I said, I am going to call it, but I really enjoy these shows and I really enjoy having you guys on here with us. So, anyway, I want to thank you all as usual. I had an absolute blast. I'm going to be doing this next week. So, and I have plenty of trivia to choose from. And I will get a creepy classic out there come heck or high water. But anyway, until next time, all of you, please be good, be safe, be careful. And I'm looking forward to seeing you all again very, 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 very soon. Peace.